Omnidog.
Omnidog.
Omnidog. It was literally like taking one body out of the coffin and just putting another body in the coffin. Bam.
Bam.
Omnidog.
Omnidog.
Omnidog. Wow, dude. You definitely look like you went back to the future.
This is my Duran Duran haircut.
Welcome, all you Sheehanites, to another wonderful episode of Sheehan is Dead Comics. Myself and Scotty here. We're going to have a very special guest on. But before we do, we're going to hit you with the customary organic price books. Organic price books at checkout. Put in the coupon code Sheehan is Dead. Sheehan is Dead. It's all together. Don't space it. You save yourself $2. Now, $2 doesn't sound like that much. However, once you go over the $50 threshold on organicpricebooks.com, you get free shipping if you so choose of medium mail.
That adds up.
Where they pack it so well, you don't need to worry about it taking an extra week and a half. And then with every dollar you spend, you get points, and then you can start using coupons and save yourself a few bucks off of whatever titles. They sell absolute editions, trade paperbacks, omnibuses, deluxe hardcovers. For instance, the Red Hood deluxe hardcover that's coming out on the 5th of September. And you're going to save yourself anywhere from $5 to $60 off the actual retail price of books, especially on the omnis and absolutes. You're going to save like a crazy man or woman. So again, organic price books, organicpricebooks.com, coupon code Sheehan is Dead. Altogether, Sheehan is Dead. Save yourself $2. Thank you to the fellas JP and David at Organic Price Books.
And here's what you shouldn't buy because I need to buy them is
Yes.
IDW's artist edition of Jim Lee's X-Men. So those are mine. I haven't bought them yet. You can't have them. They're mine. But just so you know.
Yeah, I saw the Jim Lee one. They have his artist edition. They also have a Frank Miller one, and the late great Michael Turner, who passed away sadly, and they have his work as well. I thank you. I sent that book out today.
Yeah.
The Nightwing book. Yeah. So I kept the organic price books box that I got those two omnis I showed you in.
Right.
So it was literally like taking one body out of the coffin and just putting another body in the coffin because it just fits so perfectly.
Sure.
And I wrapped it in the same bubble wrap, right? Really well. And I taped it so it's like encased. And then I put a couple of like, you know how Amazon will give like those air pockets as cushion?
Mm-hmm.
I put one in underneath it too, stuffed it down, took it to the post office, had the clerk scan the code, and then she put the label right over the label that had my name on it. So bam.
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 Nice. Yeah.
Wow, dude. You definitely look like you went back to the future. Yeah. Yeah. Marty.
This is my Duran Duran haircut.
Don't mess with it. Don't mess with it. Oh, have you heard anything good on a latest Liefeld podcast?
I listened to his most recent one, Forbidden Fruits. He was talking about Youngblood. So Youngblood is forbidden fruit because he's got part of it and he sold it off, and now like Malibu or whatever. But yet he still has some of the other characters they still own. So he talked about that.
We're having the legend, the living legend that is the one and only Jess Bragg, Omnidog, on this evening.
Omnidog.
And he will be regaling us with tales of his origin story, how he became the Omnidog, and what kind of fun he's having now. Please give us a like, subscribe if you like the content we are putting out here. Go back and watch our Dan DiDio interview. Had so much fun. It's always about the story.
Yeah,
So
super cool.
check that out, Dan DiDio interview. And in a couple of weeks, we're going to have Judd Winnick, he of the super Under the Red Hood, and also how he adapted himself. He adapted his own comic writing of Under the Red Hood into the movie, the animated movie, which is arguably one of the best Batman movies, period. So I read this book written by, who is it? Gary Whitta and Derek Robinson. The Uncanny Omar said, "Oh, I love Derek Robertson's art. I can't wait till this book comes out." And that was part of the impetus to get it. It's a regular hardcover. The art is kind of different. For instance, it's very like, look at the faces.
So I have no reference for that or context. Like what can fill us in on that?
Okay. So what happens is, so the art is an adjustment, but I mean, if you read comics and the artists change with the writers every like 4 or 5 issues, you should adapt fine. So this here, can the Dark Knight stop an invasion of Earth? When an unknown alien ship enters Earth's atmosphere, disrupting global power and communications and plunging the planet into chaos, the world is left wondering, where is Superman when he is needed most? In the mysterious absence of the last son of Krypton, Batman must rally the rest of the Justice League to counter the alien threat. But first, he must quell a crime wave on the blacked out streets of Gotham. Gary Whitta, Rogue One, a Star Wars story, and Derek Robertson, The Boys, have joined forces to tell a brutal and shocking adventure that will turn everything you think you know about Superman upside down. So I can't say it was brutal. Brutal. There's like one really cool Batman fight scene in here. When he because Lex Luthor is the president of the United States in the book. So the whole thing is they're looking for Superman, and there's like a handful of people. There's this like squirrel Green Lantern. I think the female Red Arrow. This is Aqualad to me. You got Batman, and then Luthor's in like his presidential armor suit, as opposed to his like green and purple one in the old days.
I like that one better than the green and purple one.
Yeah, so they go on. It's basically Batman trying to find out why is Superman not responding to this invasion. The invaders are looking for him because of things his people did in the past. It's a bit of it adds a new lore to like Krypton, and they weren't exactly his parents, and the Kryptonians weren't exactly goody two shoes in this book. But you come to find out that the twist, and then you find out where Superman is exactly.
So when was it published?
Or
rather, the books that make it up, when were they published?
It doesn't even have it's not a collection of issues. It's specifically a hardcover.
Oh, so this was the product. This was
okay.
So okay, cool. When was it published?
It was just recently. This just came out I don't know, 2 months ago.
All right.
Let me see.
So is this canon stuff or what?
No, and if you read it and once you get to the end, it's like, okay, I didn't see that coming. So it's its own self-contained story, and it takes everything we know about the DC universe right now, but adds like Gary Whitta's own twist. So it's very much, it should have really been like a Black Label, because it's like its own continuity. But yeah, it's anybody can read it too. It's not like it's ultra violent or naughty words in it.
All right, cool.
I took a chance on it, and I was pleased. I read a chapter a night for a little while. It was very good.
Nice.
Batman Fortress.
Like it. It looked like it had one of those semi-rubbery covers on it.
Yeah, it's laminate. So like here is laminate. But it's not like ridged. It's just like laminate.
But then the black is the black kind of rubbery.
No, the black, the cover is different. It's almost kind of like a velvety feeling.
Yeah, you can kind of see it in the screen. It just seemed like there's definitely some texture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then here you see it's like the laminate.
Yeah, nice.
Right. And then here it's like the velvety feeling.
It's
very good. And now I'm reading Ram V's. His name is Ram V. I'm reading his Detective Comics run, and his Batman is like so my Batman. It's so my Batman. Like he talks about how he's on this he's on this trail working this case, and he's basically I made these stops to the with threats to inflict like pain on the criminals, and as that panel's coming, it's like Batman like up in the corner, and then a criminal like he's got his foot or his leg like with the rope on it, and the guy's like, ah, like coming at us like that,
Cool.
Really, really cool. Like
Dynamic.
really good story.
Huh?
The backup story within it, you would absolutely hate the art. It's like it is it's like an ink blotch. It's like just blotches of dark ink like messed around with like characters.
Hmm.
It's like it's pretty hideous,
Hmm.
but I'm hanging in there, and it's still better than Riley Rassimo's art. So Riley, no offense, I know you're a fan of the Sheehan is dead YouTube, but yeah, it's really enjoyable.
Interesting. Let's see if I can show something here. There we go.
Oh,
So that's one of the things I've got in the
wait a
caps.
minute, that is an awesome Pez dispenser. How come you haven't told me?
The Boba. Boba's
Yeah,
been with me for
dude.
like a really long time.
Was there candy in there originally, or
I think there still is candy, although if you ate it, you would die. Oh, no, I guess not. At one point there was candy in it, but I guess I probably was afraid of like spontaneous combustion and threw
sure,
stuff away.
sure.
But anyway, so I got this just because I just found out about it recently and it's just so ridiculous.
Where did you
Purple,
get it?
I got it on eBay.
eBay? Okay.
Purple lion head man attacking whoever, she's supposed to be in Mighty Samson. And the purple, it says high above New York, which I guess is supposed to be New York City because they don't really know because it's in the far flung future. Samson battles a fantastic man creature whose strength matches his own. Great cover, just like super cheesy gold key cover. The interior art is horrible. So that it's just so bad. Hello, dude. There it is.
Heyo. It's
Heyo.
Omnidog from Omnidog's Vault.
What's up, guys? How's it going?
Yeah,
Good,
we're
man.
having
How are
fun here.
you?
I'm looking at Mighty Samson. Why am I doing that?
Yeah, how do you like doing it? Have you seen Mighty Samson? Do you know Mighty Samson?
I don't. I hope that's not the topic tonight.
No, but isn't it ridiculous? I mean, the reason we're looking at it is how ridiculous it is. A purple lion headed dude just like crawling around in like a radio tower in what was once Manhattan. It's just like so crazy over the top.
I want to read that.
Well, I got it. I got it this past week and I wanted to read it too. And then I cracked it open and I looked inside and I was so disappointed because the inside art is just horrific.
Oh,
You know what I mean? Like, the gold key stuff, right?
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
like
Just
Dell.
unfortunately, but the covers are great. So I'm still happy about it. But internally I'm like, oh, I'm not sure I can read this.
Jess, do you still want to have Jess Bragg or Omnidog and leave me alone, or what do you want to do?
Oh no, you can just make it Omnidog or Just Brag, whatever you want.
Jess Bragg. Okay. So you look good today. You feeling good?
Yeah, I do feel good. Yeah, I'm on some new meds that have helped me a lot.
Good. I'm glad. I'm glad. What are you wearing there? The Mary Janes? What's it say?
Yeah,
Was
What
that
is
a
that?
punk band? What was that?
Spider Gwen's band.
Oh, you know what? Spider Gwen is so popular. I don't understand. I don't get it. I don't get the hysteria over it.
Well, I don't know. Well, I think the hysteria is from the movie,
Yeah, but
but
there's like Spider Gwen this, Spider Gwen that.
well, the first Spider Gwen Omni is actually really good.
Okay.
I really, really like that comic, and I haven't read the second one. It's called, Ghost Spider, aka Spider Gwen, or whatever it's called, Ghost Spider, I think.
Did
Uh,
that one just come out, right? Isn't
yeah,
it recent? Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. But the first one was really good. I'm really pleased with the character design of her.
It's
Uh,
the same as in the movie. In the
yeah,
Yeah. It is a cool design. Yeah.
Yeah, because as an action figure collector, she's one of my favorite action figures because that hoodie and the face and then the purple cob spider webs underneath, it's just a boss design and she's a really cool character. So she's the drummer in Mary Jane Watson's band of whatever Earth they're on,
Yes.
2112 or something.
Yeah.
She's the drummer. But they're called the Mary Janes because Mary Jane's the lead.
That makes sense. Have you seen both of the Spider-Verse movies?
I have, yeah.
Yeah. I the first one I kept hearing about, and it was like, oh, this movie's so good. It's gotten all these accolades online. So I finally caved in and watched it, and I was like, wow, this is a lot of fun. I really
Which one,
enjoyed
Brian?
it. The Spider-Man, what was it? Into the Spider-Verse. That was the first one.
Yeah, I think this one's Across the Spider-Verse.
And then Across the Spider-Verse, I saw when it came out in June in the theater with some friends. That was a lot of fun. And it's even though it's a cartoon, Scott, it's not like it's not played for laughs. Like it's actually a very good movie. And the second one I got, especially toward the end, Jess, as things got more intense, I got like Dark Knight vibes in Across the Spider-Verse.
Yeah, well, yeah, and spoiler alert about that very end. I didn't know about the ending seconds of it. My movie partner and I just looked at each other and went, "What?"
Yeah.
Nobody told us about this, but it's so well animated. It's animated like nothing I've ever seen before. They poured millions of dollars into this animation process and designed it so excitingly and so differently that I thought it was monumentally different than anything I'd ever seen before.
Wow.
Now, my wife, Mrs. Omnidog, she usually
Upper management
can get her to go to, also known as upper level management, right? Usually the only movies I can get her to go to are Spider-Man movies. She does love Spider-Man, but I think it went. I think that things happened too quickly in the animated movie for her to be able to keep up with everything like it was in the live one, and I will have to rewatch the second one with closed captioning on because I didn't pick up a word that Spider-Punk said. I got no idea.
Yeah, it was that it was cool, but it was way overplayed.
I thought he was cool, but I just couldn't understand. I couldn't pick up on anything he said. And then some of the battle scenes too, or when they were in action, like when Spider-Gwen and Miles were doing something in action, I wasn't quite picking up on some of the lines that were said. So I need to have closed captioning for this second one.
That's because we're old, dude.
No, because I didn't need it for Into the Spider-Verse. Now, like 4 years ago, am I that? Well, you might be right.
I don't know. I just find the same thing, unfortunately.
There's so many things going like this and in and out, and like my senses are just going crazy as I'm trying to listen and watch and keep up. Like especially, do you remember that train scene where Spider-Man 20 when Miles finds out like what's really going on in Spider-Man 2099 and everybody else start chasing him? Yeah, and it was like whoa, especially that there was so much going on. That was intense, but I really enjoyed the movie. So, like you said, the ending, especially with the music they had. Like that music, it almost reminded me of like the Joker's music.
Yeah, and then after a couple weeks after the movie came out, maybe 2 or 3 weeks afterwards, my daughter texted me and said, "Okay, why are all my friends and Twitter so obsessed with Miguel O'Hara? Who the hell is he?" And I said, "Do you want me to send you a picture of him?" She's like, "Yes, they're all slobbering over him." And I text her a picture of Spidey 29. And she goes, "WTF? He's a comic book character? What is this?"
Yeah.
Her picture of Pedro Pascal or something. And I sent her pictures of Spidey 2099.
That is hilarious. Have you read the story? Has that inspired you to crack yours open?
Not yet. I have Justice League International to finish for my friend Taylor Talks Comics, and once I get done, and then I missed a lot of time because I wasn't feeling well, so I'm behind on everything. But I'd like to read 2099 before the year's up, September, October, November, December. It's only 4 months. I might be able to do it.
Now, as regards Justice League International, have you started reading the first volume?
Yeah, I'm halfway through it.
Okay, so I want to ask this of you. So, as you've probably heard, my impression of it, because I have both volumes of the Omnis, 1 and 2, is that, oh, this is just a ha hardy har. But we had Dan DiDio on last week, and I mentioned,
Wow.
yeah, finally, right? Yeah.
He's was so interesting.
Yeah, he sat with us for an hour and a half and just talked about like everything about DC Comics. It
That's
was awesome.
amazing.
Yeah. So, he mentioned that with Justice League International, that the first volume of it, up to the first omnibus, he thinks, after speaking with Kevin McGuire about it, he's like, everybody thinks it's, all fun and games, but there's some dark stories taking place with some subtle humor undertones. But then by the second volume, it gets guffaw, like ha ha ha. How do you feel so far reading it? Have you picked up on that?
I haven't picked up on the dark undertones yet, but it's interesting enough to me that I want to keep going. The humor hasn't bothered me because which is why I stayed away from it for so long, because I thought of it. It's always been described to me as the bwahaha era, and I think you are, if you're a DC fan, your Justice League is what you loved as a kid, and so of course mine's Silver Age, and I looked at that the goofy Guy Gardner haircut led Justice League, and I was like, I'm not reading this.
Yeah.
I haven't picked up on the darkness, but I picked up on a lot of heart. Like the stories are really there's a lot of, I'm seeing character growth in some of these characters, and they seem really earnest and wanting things to go well, and they're starting to add more characters into the mix now that are keeping it really interesting and fresh. So I'm definitely committed to finish. Well, I already bought the second one, so I'm going to finish. I bought it off somebody that had it sale for super cheap. So I said, okay, I like the first one enough. I'll definitely read the second one too.
So are you like halfway through or 3/4 or?
About halfway, yeah.
Okay.
I can when I can sit down and read it. I go through about 8. I try to read about 8 issues a day.
Wow.
Oh, that's interesting. You set that number.
Cool.
8? Why is
Yeah.
it? Did I mean something? Because I said
No,
that?
I'm just curious. Like 8. It's just like 8.
That's where I find myself tiring out of the
You're done.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, this is enough. It's about 7 or 8 issues where I'm like, this was interesting, and but I'm over it now. Yeah, that's actually how I am with every omnibus. The only exception has been Brubaker's Captain America. I read all 5 over a weekend and just burned.
What? You read them all over a weekend?
It was a 4-day weekend, Thursday through Sunday.
Okay.
Wow.
Dude, I started reading, and for shame. I started reading the Brubaker omnibus like last year, and I'm like, this is so good. I got like 6 or 7 issues into the first one, and where it's basically the crux of Winter Soldier, where they cherry picked from it.
Yeah.
And Steve Epting's art is just perfect. It's like dark and moody. It's inky. There's a lot of thick lines. I was so captivated. And then other thing, I think, as more omnibuses came in, it just took my attention away from that. But I have to go back because I'm like, this is fantastic.
I felt that same way. The only things I've tried to read like that before were like Hickman's. I have a video on how to have a Hickmanathon, a read through starting with Secret Warriors and ending with Secret Wars. And you can't really burn through anything Hickman.
Yeah.
But you also can't stop with Hickman, because I found I got halfway through the first Avengers omnibus, and I took like a week break, and I went back and I'm like, what the hell's happening here? I have no idea. I I made a concerted effort to keep reading that all the way through. It took me like a week to read both Avengers Omnis, and same with Fantastic Four, which, and I loved them both. But with Brubaker, I just could not stop reading. I was just like this, and I'm not super knowledgeable about Marvel. I know enough to keep up a conversation, and that was just the best Captain America I'd ever read. It was just one of the best comic books I've ever read. It was unbelievable.
Cool.
Just how just the ideas that he comes up with. It was incredibly sharply written, and as you said, the art was captivating.
It's amazing at that particular point in time. Brubaker was working on Cap. He had also worked with Greg Rucka on Batman. Like that era is my personal golden age of comic reading.
Is that Gotham Central you're talking about?
Like Gotham Central and
Batman.
Batman. Remember Batman Murderer? Batman
and Bruce Wayne Fugitive. Bruce
Wayne.
And then,
yeah. Thank you. Yeah, Bruce Wayne Fugitive, Bruce Wayne Murderer, and then there was where Greg Rucka wrote it, where Sacha Bordeaux came in, like before that, like the setup for it, to where he got the bodyguard Sacha Bordeaux, and then everything that happened in Fugitive and Murderer, then Fugitive, and then she ends up in Checkmate and all that. Yeah.
Oh yeah, she's in Checkmate. I just was organizing for. I know it's shocking to some people, but I was actually trying to organize my DC room, which is over there, because when we moved, the movers just put all the boxes in. They put the shelves in, and then they just moved 85 boxes of comic hardcovers in there. And my wife and a friend unboxed and put on shelves everything from 85 boxes. I don't know where I was, but it took them 2 days, and they just attacked it and said, boom, they put everything on the shelves. It is unbelievably out of order. Now I have to go back, and I'm looking for like Batman by Tom King hardcover number 5. Where is that? And then I'm looking for these little skinny Batman Snow trade paperbacks, and I'm trying to find those and put them, and I'm just grouping them together. I'm not even trying to get them in chronological order right now. I'm just like, okay, Batman, you're okay for right now. Let's go hunt for Shazam or something.
You were floating above the house. Because it was it was an out of body experience. Moving is that.
Oh yeah, I don't ever. I'm never moving again.
Right?
My next home is the funeral home. Forget it. Yeah, never. There's no way.
That's what
I'm with you.
That's when Omar's going to come over your house and find your secret box, right? And
yeah, that has Omar's name on it with his cell phone number. I just found the DVDs that got me in trouble with my wife, because she accidentally opened the Omar box. It got out of my
Control.
And shut up, because she found it, and the stuff in there didn't bother her. Some of the stuff, the good girl art stuff that I like, it was these DVDs that some fan sent me from some B movie distributor, Strippers from Mars or something, and somebody sent them to me, and she found those, and she's like, what are these? The Playboys I had from like 1970 didn't bother her, but she was like, what are these? I'm like, hey, they're still sealed. What am I saying?
Adrian Barbeau.
I wish. I said, hey, they're still sealed. I haven't looked at them, but a fan sent them to me. What am I supposed to do? I mean, I can't throw away what a fan sent me.
Yeah.
That lasted, I think I got the cold shoulder for a solid 2 hours that day.
Oh boy. Yeah. When you say good girl art, are we going back to like the 40s and the 50s, like the mystery novel, the hard pulped, that kind of stuff, Mickey Spillane cover art. Is that what you're talking about? Or are you talking comics?
I'd say it's more like Bruce Timm's drawings.
I'm not familiar. I'll have to
I'm
check it
familiar.
out.
I'm familiar.
Oh yeah. So it's late. It is comic stuff, and it's later. I'm thinking like
Yeah.
40s and 50s good girl art. Pre-comic, mystery, pulp
Like
cover.
pinup girls and stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But
Yeah. I have a collection of my dad's pinup stuff from World War II and the Korean War, and a couple of calendars have been on my wall upstairs, and she doesn't mind those.
is that like Varga
Yeah,
or
very
like
similar to
Varga?
that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. But I mean, it even has the name of the garage in San Francisco or whatever.
That's
And
so cool, dude. I love it. I would be all
yeah,
over that.
I have two of those that I came into possession of his when he passed away, but they're it's so cool because back then it was like they had you wouldn't call 625-8554, you'd call Chicago 783, and then your zip code was Akron 7 if you were in Ohio or something. It was so different because
Yep.
they didn't have zip codes or area codes for a long time, and just local number exchanges. And so that's why I kind of hang on to these calendars.
No, those are great. You should. Those
Yeah.
those are collectible and they're worthy. Like the phone number is like Chevron 78.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Zip codes, as I recall, I want to say zip codes were like 74. That's how late they were. I could be wrong, but they were not like the zip codes that we know them now. Maybe 74 was the expanded zip code.
That was the expanded one. I would say, since I grew up in the 60s, I definitely wrote letters to home. Okay, wait a second. That's a good question. I remember writing letters to home, and we had such an odd they had such a weird way of naming the routes back then.
Yeah.
It was like rural route. It wasn't a road. It was like rural route 55 when I growing up in Carmel, and now it's just the name of the street. But I feel like I put in the 60s a zip code on it, but
63 July 1, 63 was the first level of zip code, and I think 74 was when they blew them out and added
to 9 digits.
Yeah, okay. Possibly. Yeah. I lived on a rural route as a kid when I was in high school. Ours was RR1, Hebron, the name of the county. RR1 Hebron.
Yeah, I think ours was RR55 Carmel, California 93921.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Interesting. So, Brian, do you know anything? Can you speak to rural routes? Are they even in play anymore?
They're not specifically, but the post office goes by rural, like a carrier will have rural route 1, rural route 2, rural route 3, 4.
But are they on the address themselves, or is it just okay?
Unless it's way out in the country, then it might be like RR box 5, wherever.
Okay. Interesting.
Let me ask you if this is an urban legend or if this is true, Brian.
Yes.
If you can get postage on it, can you mail a coconut?
Yeah, you can mail a coconut. Mm-hmm.
I do it all the time.
If I get a coconut and I shave it down so I can address it, and then shave it down so the postage sticks on it, can I just go to the postmaster and say,
you mean with just the coconut?
Just the coconut?
No. It's got to be in a bag or something. Like at the holiday times, people will send food. Like, I had a Puerto Rican fellow come in and he's like, I want to send this to my mother. I made pasteles for her. And which is like if you don't know, Jess and Scott, it's like a holiday delicacy. It takes a lot of work. It's made by hand. So he had a cooler and, one of those small coolers, he wrapped tape around it and whatnot. And I was able to send it to Puerto Rico. It was sent, expedited service because there was something perishable inside of it. But
The cooler you were able to send?
yeah, like one of those styrofoam like small coolers.
Okay.
You can pretty much mail anything as long as it's not over a certain length.
But
But
not
not
a coconut.
Yeah.
right, but not a coconut.
I'm going to
Right.
look into this because I feel like this came from some place of knowledge, although you are the ultimate judge of those, of course.
Well, at the moment, I've never had anybody try to mail a coconut or a banana or any
See,
or
now banana would get squished, but I feel like somebody told me that wasn't messing with me that if you can get the address and the postage to stick on like a coconut itself, you can mail that.
Well, so it's funny that you bring this up because there's an interview. I think it might be cartoonist Kayfabe, with Kevin Kitchen, right? You're familiar with Kitchen Press?
Yeah.
And so when they were young and they were doing the underground stuff, one of the things that happened in one of the magazines that either he was doing or a cohort did is they were like, if you want to send a pepperoni to a starving artist, here's an address. And so like in the early 70s, someone saw that ad and sent him in the mail, unadorned, unpackaged, just with a little label hanging off it, a pepperoni through the mail. It got to him.
He mailed a single piece of pepperoni.
Well, no, a whole pepperoni.
Whole huge Herkin pepperoni.
Yeah. And they mailed it and he got it.
Okay, I'm starting to think the coconut can be done.
I'm wondering.
Brian, you should give me your address and I'm going to mail you a coconut.
I would, dude. I'll email it to you for sure.
That would be awesome.
That would be.
Well, no, I'm sorry. Mail the USPS documentation. Coconuts, no. Pepperonis are fine.
Well, the new thing is there anything liquid, fragile, perishable, hazardous, lithium batteries, perfume, or mercury? So,
well, there is coconut milk in the thing if you shake it.
Yeah.
if it's perishable and it could be, squashed or crushed, that's going to be very problematic.
Everything could be squashed or crushed.
Right. But I have had someone send me cheesesteaks from Philadelphia overnight, but they was in, it was packed in a box.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's no fun.
Well, it's fun if you get them, and that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But I think you should try the coconut thing. I mean, how much of a risk is? Not much of a risk.
I'll Google it, but I have not. No one has ever asked me that question before.
No, don't ruin it. Don't ruin it.
Don't ruin it. Okay.
Just try it. Just try it, and let's see what happens.
I can get my daughter to come with me as we go to the post office and try to mail you a coconut.
Okay.
See, there I have content.
And don't unless it doesn't work, but don't tell me when you're doing it or so that it just shows up and I'm like, wow, Jess was right.
So version 1 is the whole coconut with the liquid in it. If that fails, then version 2 would be drill a hole, drain the liquid, and add a tag to it and see if that works.
Yeah. I don't know. I can't. I almost don't even want to Google it to find out. I just want to do it.
Right.
Yeah, do it. Don't tell me. And all of a sudden I'll just be like, oh, coconut. Hey,
that's so funny.
Give us your origin story. How did you get into comics? Like what was it? Like what year?
Story. That's so funny.
Yeah, and then how you became the legendary Omnidog.
I'm not even legendary in my own house, so
You're you're legendary to me. You're legendary to me.
Good enough. I'll take that.
All right.
I got into comics. I remember being like 6 years old. We moved from Ohio to California when I was about 6. And I remember before we moved to California, I was looking at a Superman comic and it just looked really cool to me. So fast forward, we moved to California, moved to Carmel, and I would go to the drugstore with my dad, and that's where you would get comics back in those days, was on the spinner rack in a drugstore. Mm-hmm. And I would pick up early copies of Superman and Batman. I started with Superman, and then Batman was in World's Finest because that had Superman and Batman in it. And I said, okay, Batman, I'm going to get into Batman. So I was probably 7. So 1966 is when I first started. I still have a couple of the Batman books. They're packed away still right now, but I still have one or two. I sold my whole collection. Back 10 or 12 years ago, but no, not that long ago, probably 2014 or so, 2015. But I kept a couple of really Batman comics that really meant a lot to me, and a couple of Superman and a couple of World's Finest. So I think it was like around I was 7, and that's what I gravitated towards. Had I looked at a copy of Spider-Man instead of Superman, I might have become a diehard Marvel fan instead. But that's what I first saw. So from like 7 till I was about 15, all I read was DC. And then, well, maybe when I was 13 or 14, I started picking up Spider-Man and Captain America. And then when I was about 17, the Bronze Age JLA just drove me from comics. I was like, what am I doing? What am I doing with my life? What is this? I was 17, and
Sure.
I was more interested in golf and girls and the beach and stuff. And
Not
then,
necessarily in that order.
correct. So that would have been 1976. So I was out of comics until 1985, when Dark Knight Returns brought me back in. I read about it in the paper, and it said there's something going on in this is 40 years ago almost now. There's something going on in the comics book world that has never happened before. Batman's like kind of Clint Eastwood type of vigilante kicking ass. And I was living in LA at the time, and I think it was Golden Apple Comics. I went there and I said, I've been reading about this Dark Knight Returns. Do you have a copy? And the guy this was comic book guy from The Simpsons. He got all huffy, and he said, there is a copy of the first printing right here that you may have for $50. And I said, I do not want to pay $50. I want to read this and find out why this is so cool. And he said, what can you tell me about Batman? And I like, what? So I started giving him my comic book history like I'm doing with you. And he goes, all right, I'll give it to you for $20. And I thought, all right, it's a first printing and I just want to read it. And so that was just the first issue. I think it went 4 issues. And so I went back there whenever I knew the next issue was out. And that's how I got back into comics, and I haven't left since. Because comics just kept getting progressively better. I was like reading Dark Knight, and then Watchmen, and then Batman Year One. And then I started finding out about Sandman and Hellblazer. A little bit later, Spider-Man got really interesting with Michelini and McFarlane art. And so that kind of pulled me into Marvel a little bit. And
of course, you were all over Liefeld.
I wasn't a Liefeld art hater. I don't really think he's a very good writer, but I honestly, I don't think McFarlane's a good writer either. Just my opinion. Peace and love. That's just me.
It's all good. We get it.
But I liked that kind of really hard-edged, kinetic fighting style that McFarlane and Liefeld and Jim Lee were doing. I followed it for a little bit in the 90s when it was really popular, but I didn't follow him to Image Comics because I was just reading kind of mainline stuff and maybe Harvey Pekar kind of stuff. Zippy the Pinhead. I was I was reading more obscure, interesting stuff to me, and Superman, Batman, whatever, but I never really followed the Image comic stuff, although there are some Wildstorm comics that I've been reading. Like I think that's where the Authority books I have the Wildstorm logo on them, and there's some other Wildstorm stuff. Astro City. That's one of like the 6 imprints it's got is Homage, Wildstorm, Vertigo, DC. Okay, that's only 4.
But
Uh,
still. Yeah.
Cool.
Cool.
That Astro City was a really cool image. Oh, well, I guess Image must have been an imprint there somewhere.
Well, the Image was the blanket, and then the artist had their sub.
Oh, their studios sort of. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
When did you become the Omnidog? Like, how did that happen?
That's a funny origin story. I made friends with the omnibus collector. His name is Riley Moore. He's in Texas, and I feel like it was around 2014 where I had been really collecting a lot of single issues since about 2008. And I realized that I just had too many comics that I wasn't getting to, kind of like the Omnis I'm not getting to now. It's a lifelong problem. But around 2014 is when I started to really get interested in collected editions. And I don't even know how I found him, because I started following him on Tumblr. And I don't even Tumblr still exists, but
it does, but it doesn't get much traffic.
But he had a Tumblr page where he would talk about reading orders of things, and he was doing maps. This is where Map My Ex comes from Very Fine Conditions channel. Riley was doing like mapping really early on, and he would have trade paperback reading orders for X-Men and stuff. And he also had a YouTube channel, and I started watching that, and I'm like, look at how big those Omnis are. That's so cool. And so I started collecting them. And then in 2015, he started a Facebook group called the Omnibus Collectors Comic Swap and Community.
What year did you say?
That was about 2015.
Okay.
And I feel like in some part of 2015, I became an admin and moderator in there. And he and I became good friends. And the idea of his Facebook group was, because at that time, this was long before the era of reprints that we're living in now.
Yeah.
Books like Secret Warriors, I mean, that book's been out of print since 2015. So we're just getting a reprint of it now. But like the original X-Men, the Stanley X-Men Volume 1, Thor Stanley X-Men Volume 1, those were going for like $300 or $400 on eBay back then. Same with like the Avengers books. Infinite Crisis later on would be like a $350 book. And Riley's thing was, this is our place to come and sell for nothing over cover price. And this is to avoid eBay and Amazon inflated prices. Join my group and we will help each other find these books.
That's awesome.
Yeah, right. It was really cool. And there was a lot of really cool comic book discussion. It at the very beginning, there was trading fast and furious. Lots of people were trading this for that. And
sure,
I've got this copy of Secret Wars. I'll trade you it for Brubaker's Captain America Volume 1. Okay. Because Brubaker's Captain America was way out of print until it got reprinted. Daredevil had a problem. Fantastic Four, that by Lee and Kirby, that tended to get reprinted a lot. I'm looking at my collection. Oh, Daredevil by Bendis and Brubaker, those were long gone at that point. Or whenever they came into being, they were gone. Yeah, I feel like those were already out of print at that point. Frank Miller's Daredevil, that occasionally got reprinted. Uncanny X-Force, new X-Men, and Astonishing X-Men, those were whales. The Ultimates, that was a whale. First Wolverine, Simonson's Thor, those were whales that were going way over cover. but there were also trade paperbacks that were really expensive. And I always had this as my avatar on all my social media, because that was my dog at the time, Archie, and that was a picture of him. And in 2016 is when I really got the name Omnidog, because I feel like it was April or May of 2016, and I went out to the Northwest to visit my sister. But I started and she lived in Oregon, but I started out in Carmel, and I drove all the way up to Oregon, and I hit every single comic book store. I was there for 3 weeks, and then I went from my sister lived just over the border in Oregon, but then I went up to visit my friend Nate in Portland, which was a 5-hour drive. He took me to 8 comic book stores, and I had a list from everybody in that group of what they were looking for. By the time I made my way back to my sister's and started packaging up everything for everybody, they were like giving me their orders. Can you find me this? Can you find me that? And I'm like, yes, I'm going to find you that. I'm going to find you that Hitman Volume 1 and Volume 2 right now. And I'd go into a store and I'd find it. And they all PayPal'd me all the money. And I sent out 22 huge boxes from my sister's place in Jacksonville, Oregon, to all these people. And as soon as I wheeled up 22 boxes to the postmaster, and she said, okay, media mail. And she opened them right away. Two or three of them out of the 22 and said, we're checking them. And I'm like, okay, that was my first experience with that. So believe it, that the post office will open your media mail boxes. She did it right in front of me. But and after that, for the next 4 years, well into the pandemic, I would do whatever I could to find books for people at cover price or less.
Wow.
It was like my mission in life. I would go to various states. Whenever I'd go to a state for a vacation, I would go in a 3-hour radius and look for comic books for people. So I must have found 250 or 300 books for people that I could have flipped on eBay easily. But that wasn't fun. It was more fun for me to find something and have somebody say, look what Omnidog found me. And because of Omnibus and my dog picture, somebody called me Omnidog, and that's how the name stuck.
Well, that's such a cool story. That's
way cool,
great.
Jess.
Yeah.
Way cool.
It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun because it was my daughter had already graduated from college. So, and my wife and I were empty nesters, and it kind of gave me purpose and focus to find these books for people. And it was just a lot of fun it was the challenge of the hunt. That's what every collector loves, is the challenge of that hunt, whether you're finding your gold key, whatever that was. What was it again?
Mighty Samson.
Mighty Samson. Exactly. If you wanted that book and you for a year and you found it, the feeling you get from finding something is so fun as a collector. And I was able to feel that on multiple levels for multiple people, because they were so grateful. And I was just like, this is really cool. It's hey, maybe this world's not that bad of a place. Maybe it's actually nice to be people. It's nice to be nice. And that's where that's where I got the name Omnidog.
Wow,
cool.
Dude, that's way cool. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah. I love that.
Thank you for asking.
No, I first off, Jess, I really appreciate you.
Oh,
I love watching you. I mean, as you know, I'm a big fan, but like I love that you interact with people from your chat. Like you come on my channel with Scott and I, because I first messaged you and I was like, hey, my very first message was like, hey, on a Saturday night for Batter Days, And I was like, hey, what are those shelves? How do I get those shelves? What are they called? And you're like, oh, they're called Billies. And then you and um Tyler, right?
Taylor.
Taylor.
Yeah.
I always get confused.
Yeah. It's hard having two friends, Taylor and
Yeah.
Tyler.
And you guys were like, oh, well, there's Billy's and there's Kelex. You can get these at IKEA and you can get these at Target. And, you know, this was like fresh off the pandemic. So, like, they weren't
Oh,
in stock. So
oh
it was
yeah.
like,
That's
it
right.
was having to
True.
wait. And then just from watching you, and I feel like every time we say Omar or very fine condition, we should like beep it like it's a swear word, you know, be like boop, boop, like that when we edit the video. And that got me into collecting omnis, and so now I have these, Scott's seen it, I have these two big Billy bookcases in my closet, my walk-in closet.
Broadest ones, whatever the broadest ones are.
Yeah, you and Omar helped me go down the rabbit hole of omnibuses, and now I'm like hooked. I get them, I pre-ordered them like ad nauseum, and I feel that connection to you and Omar. um but especially you, like you're almost like, hey, my uncle Jess is going on YouTube, let's check him out. Whereas Omar is more like, I feel like I'm watching a retailer.
He's your cousin.
Yeah,
Omar's your cousin, and Jess is your uncle.
yeah. So it's
Omar's
like,
that guy playing 3-card Monty for the shell game on the side of the street.
seriously, yes, yes,
Out of a
yes.
box.
Yes. And Scott and I have talked about this, like the dichotomy between you two, and how you know, Omar is like more focused on what he's, I feel like pushing is like a negative connotation, but like what he's pushing for, like, oh, this is going to be reprinted. This
It's
and
what
that.
he's talking about. It's not pushing. He's just, that's what he's doing.
That's his job.
Yeah,
I
Right.
mean,
We're,
that's his job. So
right.
yeah.
Whereas you, it's just kind of like, hey, let's sit back and, you know, have a hot chocolate and let's talk about, you know, this book and that book and this book and that book, you know?
Yeah.
So I really I'm just such a big fan, and I
Oh,
feel,
I appreciate that.
no, I appreciate you sincerely, and I, you know, now I feel like I'm part of the group now, you know, like with my addiction to omnibuses now. So
Well, better to be addicted to that than a lot of other things. I can promise you that.
There
dude,
you go.
dude,
There you go.
I tell, oh, by the way, my mom says hello, right?
Oh, tell your mom
Oh,
I said
thank you,
hi.
sir. I will, thank you. And it was funny on that video on the collectors, you told what's the other fellow's name? Not Gio, the other fellow, the Cuban with the Cuban wife.
Lou.
Lou, yeah. And you're like, careful, Lou, Brian, because I sent in a comment. You're like, careful, Lou, Brian's mom is probably watching this with him. So just, you know, but you weren't funny. You were just putting that out there, and I got a good giggle, and as did my mother, you know.
It's
So
true. I guess I get my most powerful critiques from Brian's mom.
yeah. Yeah. She's like, wow, since you guys started doing this YouTube thing, Scott's comic knowledge has really shot up. And I'm like, wow, you know Scott? You know? And so it's like, for her to notice that, I was like, wow, you know. But she definitely enjoys watching you. She loves watching you. She likes watching Omar. But
Well, good.
yeah,
You told her I said hello and thank you for watching. I appreciate it.
yeah. I feel like that was an overly long-winded way to compliment you, but that's
Oh,
how
you can keep going for 10 minutes if you want. Yeah, no, I really appreciate that, Brian. That's one thing that I wasn't prepared for. I was invited on Omni Bros I think in the latter part of 2016. It was just Riley and Lou doing it, and they said, "Hey, do you want to do it?" And I said, "Okay." And then I did my own channel, and I was not expecting. I was just going to go on and review comic books, but I wasn't expecting to make the connection with so many people. And so many people have been, excuse me, have been watching for a long time, or even somebody who's brand new to the hobby. I'm glad I come across as approachable, and I'm glad for the connections I've made, because one thing that I like about being, you know, smaller, I'm much smaller than Very Fine Condition or anybody else out there. I still have a solid base, but it's small enough so that when I put out a message like, guys, I'm not feeling well, I'm sorry I can't do a show tonight, I'll get a ton of emails and messages on the channel and stuff, and everybody's really nice. And it's hard to find that on the internet where people are genuinely, sincerely nice. And I have the nicest fan base or viewer base. I don't know if they're fans, but I have the nicest viewer base. They send me nice things. They email me nice things, and I try to just be as nice as I can. I just try and be myself on the air, and that's what I love about the live shows that I do. I do a lot of live shows. Those don't pay jack on YouTube. Actually, nothing pays on YouTube, but those pay the least, because you're going on for 3 hours, and nobody's going to sit through a 3-hour video to get the algorithm up on YouTube or whatever.
What about
I-
post?
Good.
What about post though? Like when it's recorded, I mean, later, does it make up?
Yeah, some people, well, actually, I put something I did with Freddie. I said, anybody that made it to the end of this video, let me know, or something. And there were a lot of people that said, yeah, we watched it the whole way through. So, and Brian was just holding his hand up. So I guess people do have it on in the background or watch it because it's fun. And I love interacting with the chat. I rarely get any trolls.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I rarely get any trolls, and I have enough mods that will take care of it because I'm always half an hour behind in the conversation because I'm doing it by myself.
You're
And that's
apologizing. Yeah.
part of the funniness now, that I'm always, off the bat, I'm a half hour behind. And but I feel like I've got a community of people who are really nice, and they talk to each other and they talk to me, and I didn't expect that. I just thought I'd go on and hope that I got 100 people that would, subscribe. I was so excited with my first subscriber that wasn't my wife or daughter. I can't even
We
remember
were too.
um but it's been really pleasant, and it's given me purpose and focus in sort of this third of my life, the bottom of the seventh or wherever I am in it. The show's kind of given me a focus and a purpose, and the feedback I get from people is almost always positive. I hardly ever get anything negative, and if I do get something negative, I just try and think of all the 99% other people that are like Brian, that think it's fun just to interact. So it's been a really pleasant surprise, and I just
Yeah.
for
That's
about
cool.
10 minutes there.
No,
Probably
no.
your response to all of it is probably just as powerful and kind of, aims the response you're getting, so it's like a positive loop as opposed to a negative loop.
But that's a good point. Yeah, I do try, even when I say negative things about books, I try not to I try not, I always like to say all opinions are valid on my channel, as
Sure.
long as people, accept it.
Civil.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No hate's allowed. But if we're civil about it, you like this, I don't, okay, that's fine. You should like it. I'm glad you like it. I wish I liked it.
Peace and love. Peace and love.
Love, right.
Yeah. So the first time that I saw you, Jess, I guess you were part of the algorithm, something that I was watching regarding comics, and
okay.
I watched you, and I'm like, I didn't get it at first. It was kind of like, I'm like, who's this older fella that's into the comics and whatnot? And I'm watching. Then I watched you when you were at the nursing home.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And your wife, and I didn't know at first who the nice lady next to you sitting down was, kind of like your translator almost, your geek translator. And then I come to find out that was your wife. And then I messaged you that I watched it. You were like, oh, thanks so much for the feedback. And then I started to get it, because like as comic fans and our personalities, like people can easily misunderstand us. Like there's some, like I think the people who are in the comics and whatnot, our personalities are wired in such a way that just in regular meeting with people, there's some sort of discomfort. But then when you get to know, like Scott and I have bonded over this, especially, and when you get to know someone, like in this arena, in this orb of geekdom, you really bond with them in a way that other people can't. You know what I mean?
Right.
So like that's what I've come to feel about you and enjoyed about your channel, to where it's like one day I just got it. Like I get it. I get Jess. I get what's going on. And it was something I couldn't like translate, or I couldn't say like what that button that pushed inside of me. But I feel like wherever that weirdness inside me and that weirdness inside you like connected over YouTube.